Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 2. We're going to cover chapters 10 and 12 this week. So here we go. Our objectives this week are, number 1, performance. We want to take a look at definitions and descriptions of performance and some of the methods or thinking behind performance appraisals. Then we want to look at development, providing feedback and follow-up to your employees, getting them motivated. But we also want to look at retaining, promoting, and a little bit about how you compensate to keep these employees. Then we're going to get into teamwork. We're going to examine how groups form and why they're important. And we're going to look at both teamwork and productivity and how they relate to each other. And then finally, we're going to take a look at morale. We're going to look at those factors that influence employee morale, and we're going to try to get some comprehension into why counseling is important. So let's start right off, shall we? Chapter 10 to begin with, performance management. Management has a big obligation. And so in doing so, they have an obligation to let their employees know how they're doing. So you have to have some system of performance management. You want to set the stage for your employees to be successful, because if they're successful, you're successful. But you have to set the role model out. You have to set the example. You are the one that everyone is to follow. So if you do things wrong or break any rules, then it has to be okay for the rest of the people working with you or for you to break those rules too. Therefore, it's important you follow the rules. You provide feedback to your employees, let them know how they're doing, let them know when they're doing a great job or when they need to improve their performance, and you set these controls in place. The big thing is to monitor their performance on a regular basis. Give them support, guidance, and give them direction as needed, but don't micromanage them. Let them think for themselves. So if you look at your book in chapter 10, the figure shows you the method of performance management. Planning, organizing, staffing, leading, controlling. All those things are what you do. And in doing so, you have to develop your people. You are part of the recruiting process. HR may bring in applicants for you, but you're the one who effectively recruits or decides whether these people are coming to work for you. So you do a good part of the selection. You orient them, get them accustomed to the job, you evaluate them, you develop them, and hopefully keep them long term so that you're developing an asset and not a liability by having to replace them and put somebody else in place. So the thing you want to do on a regular basis is performance appraisals. And this is assessing and advising the employee's performance. Look at the cartoon. I wish my supervisor would tell me once in a while how I'm doing. My supervisor never tells me when I'm doing a good job, but boy, if I make a mistake, I sure hear about it. That's a big problem in management, folks. And it doesn't make you less authoritative or weaken your position by going around and telling people, hey, nice job today. Good job. It lets people know that you're recognizing them. If you're going to be out there and tell them what they're doing wrong, you need to be out there and let them know when they're doing something right. Look for the good in everyone, and don't concentrate on looking for the bad in everyone. Effective supervisors provide their subordinates daily with day-to-day feedback on how they're doing. Hey, how you doing today? Nice job yesterday. Glad to see you. Those kind of things make people feel good. But when you have to go in and counsel somebody on a particular issue, use what's called the sandwich technique. So remember this little diagram. You start off with something positive. You say something great. You put the fill in, which is what you want to get corrected or tell them what they need to improve on. And then you finish again with something positive. So for instance, let's say you have an employee who's late, and they're becoming late frequently. You start off by telling them, hey, how you doing today? You know, I've been watching you. You really do a good job, and I really am glad you're on my team. But I have this one little problem with you. I noticed lately that you're starting to be 5 to 6 minutes late every day, and we need to fix that because, you know, that's the rules for everybody. We all have to be here on time. And if you would just fix that, you would be the perfect employee. But on the other hand, I just want to remind you, I'm glad to have you on my team. You do a great job, and I enjoy your work. Thank you for being here. Let's just work on that lateness, okay? So you start off with a good, you told what you wanted to fix, and you ended on a positive. That makes an employee feel good. Not bring them into the office and go, hey, I noticed you've been late a lot lately, and I want you to fix that. If you keep doing that, we're going to have a problem, okay? All right, now get out of here and get back to work. That doesn't make anybody feel good. So you want to treat people the way you'd like to be treated. There's two main reasons why you should do these. One, it gives employee feedback so they can improve. It lets them know what they're doing wrong. Maybe in their mind they don't see that they're doing anything wrong. Or maybe there's reasons for why they're doing what they're doing, and you need to sit down and talk about it and see what you can do to help them correct it. But once they understand that you're looking at them, they feel part of the organization, and they start to align their goals with your goals, okay? And you also want to align their goals with the organizational goals. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Here's what the company's doing. We want to take those two together, bring them together, and be successful for you and for the company. So you provide feedback. You develop a performance improvement plan. You identify those areas that need improving, and you help guide them to making themselves successful, which in turn makes you successful, which in turn makes the company successful. All right? So, the immediate manager or supervisor should always be the one to do anybody's performance appraisal. And those should be done on a regular basis. However, some of the supervisors need to be trained on how to do that. So if you're an upper level manager, make sure your people below you understand how to conduct a performance appraisal on their employees. The most common method is a direct appraisal of the manager on the employee using a predetermined format by HR. They have a typical format form that you use and fill out with certain criteria, and you gauge everybody by that. Excuse me. Now, HR or the company usually determines the frequency of appraisal. However, I'm going to tell you that there's some things wrong with how they do that. We'll get into that in a moment. There are several methods for employee appraisal. Number one, peer evaluation. The evaluation of employees' performance by other employees. In other words, members of their peers do an evaluation saying how they feel that person does in the job. These are people that are in the job with you who do the same thing or similar things that you do. They evaluate and judge you. So sometimes that becomes part of the process. Particularly in some of the bigger companies where, let's say, software development, where these people are all working together. Now, there needs to be some safeguards built in to make sure that the evaluations are based really on performance factors and not whether certain people like or dislike you. There's no bias, no prejudice, or personality conflicts. I mean, they may not like you personally, but they should be able to evaluate you fairly and honestly on what you're doing. He does a great job, but I can't stand the guy. All right, then there's what's called the 360-degree evaluation. These are performance appraisals based on data collected from all around the employee. What do the customers say about you? What do the vendors or suppliers say about you? How do the superiors or supervisors feel? How do the subordinates feel that work below you? How do other managers feel about you? In other words, it gets a picture of you from everybody's perspective. It really gives employees a broader perspective of what they do well, where they need to improve, and how they're perceived by everyone that they come in contact with. So their customers, their suppliers, the people they work with, the people they have working for them, and so forth. There's also what's called a self-evaluation. I've had to fill a few of those out. They're hard to do, but you really have to sit and think and be honest with yourself. And it's really great if you point out some of your weaknesses. Most people want to do a great self-eval. Go, well, I don't want to let them know that I think there's something wrong with me. No, and obviously you should do that, believe it or not. They come from you. And then you compare those to the supervisor's rating, and you discuss the differences. Then from there, you align your goals to the goals of the organization, and you create some specifics for improvement. The employee performance frequency should be long enough to develop a reasonably accurate record of that person's employment and their performance, but short enough to remain current and useful. Now, I'm going to tell you, here's the problem. A lot of companies do an evaluation once a year. Not good. Twice a year is better, but the best time period or frequency for doing evaluations is quarterly. Here's what's wrong with once a year. Once a year means that the manager is only going to remember what you did lately. So right after your evaluation, maybe you do a good job for a while, then you slack off and you really don't care. And then the last 2 to 3 months before your evaluation, you kick it in gear and start doing a great job again. Why? Because the manager's only going to remember what they've seen recently. Shorter periods are more appropriate when the employee is new to the job. So like a newly hired employee should be evaluated at the end of a probationary period, let's say like 30 days. If an employee has a performance problem, then we come in and we do a different kind of performance review. It's a correction plan. An immediate meeting has to be scheduled. Sorry, interrupted by a phone call. Anyway, again, if an employee has a problem, this is the time to meet with them, and you set up an improvement plan, and usually it's like a 45-day or 30-day improvement plan. You either get better or the next step is you're out. So, thinking about it all, make sure that you give regular feedback. It reduces that natural apprehension around their appraisals. If you only give it once in a while, like once every 6 months or a year, then everybody's a little nervous about it. They're not sure what's going to happen. But if you do it on a regular basis and do it in a good manner, in a positive way, the employee feels good about it, and they actually look forward to it, looking to see how they did and what they need to work on now. Using a performance appraisal as a tool is the key thing. Obviously, it does support other judgments that go into whether you get a raise, whether you get a promotion, a transfer to another department, or whether it would lead to a layoff, a demotion, or even your termination. So the big thing to remember is, as a manager, as a supervisor, you have to remember you have to have a document trail. You can't just look at somebody and go, well, this person doesn't get any better, I'm going to get rid of them. And then a couple of weeks later go, I've had it with them. If you're not documenting it when it comes time to let them go, you could be faced with having to pay them unemployment. You might even be faced with having to hire them back if they can prove there was prejudice or bias or something like they could, like for instance, someone could say there was sexual harassment and maybe they win on that note, so you have to hire them back. So if you don't have a document trail, shame on you. You need to do the reviews. If they do something wrong, you need to write it down or do a write-up and formally counsel them so that you have this trail. It's like a lawyer. You're preparing your case for either improving or letting them go. It's also a means of informing subordinates how they're doing, letting them know what they might need to do to get better, to improve their behavior, their attitude, maybe to improve their job knowledge so they become more valuable. So it kind of really lets the employee know where they stand at all times and use it as a positive tool for you to coach and counsel employees. And I say coach, think of the word coach. You want to get people to do better, not get rid of them. So you're thinking in terms of, okay, look, today you jumped 4'1" on the high bar, but I know you can jump 4'4", so tomorrow let's try to hit 4'2", and then we'll hit 4'3". So you're developing a plan to make them improve, okay? Written appraisal forms are the best way to do it. It's there in a uniform way, and it facilitates the process because it gives you a guideline and a program to go by. And again, the forms usually prepared by human resources based on what other employees and supervisors or managers have said. These are the things that should be in their performance review. Includes the descriptions of any job-related factors that helps the supervisor make an objective performance evaluation rather than making a personality shot call. I mean, no matter who you are as a manager or supervisor, you're going to have people working for you that you don't like. I don't care for them, but you know what? They sure do a great job, and they're here every day. So what can I say? It also should give space at the bottom for additional comments that you want to include about the employee's performance, like he does this, he does that, goes above and beyond the job by doing this, not necessarily part of his job description, but he does do this, blah, blah, blah. And you should also have a space for the employee to write feedback or rebuttal, in that, yes, I see what I'm doing wrong and I'm going to work hard to improve it, or I disagree with this comment, I don't think I'm being evaluated fairly, or whatever. Okay? The employee should have a spot to be able to write how they feel about it. Factors in measuring their performance should be definitely their job knowledge, the timeliness of their output, are they doing a good job, the positive and negative effects of their effort, any ideas or suggestions that they generate, you should be putting that in there. How dependable are they? Are they absent a lot or tardy, or are they always there and they get their work done on time? Are they safety conscious? How much supervision do they require? Do you have to tell them everything they have to do, or do they think of their own and you have to very frequently give them any guidance or input? What's their aptitude to learn? What's their attitude? How cooperative are they when working with others? How well do they adapt to different situations? Come on, computer. All right. What's their ability to work with the others? Are they a good team player, help everybody out where possible, or are they an island, a one-man band, so to speak? They don't like to work with people. Do they have the ability to learn and grow? What's the quantity and quality of their work? How effectively do they use their resources? Are they customer service oriented? Are they concerned about what the customer's getting? Those are all important factors. What's their judgment? Do they make sound decisions and good judgment? What's their appearance? Are they sloppy, or do they always seem to be neat? There's so much that you can go through in an appraisal. So if you're not sure what to do, begin with a blank sheet of paper and answer these questions. What has Shirley done well? What does Shirley need to improve on? What have I done to help Shirley improve? Have I given her all the tools so she can do a good job? What do I need to help you out with, Shirley? And where do we go from here? What are your new objectives? The appraisal meeting should be set up in advance. It needs to have the right purpose and attitude. And again, you should be looking for the good in people, not the bad. We can all walk around and find bad in everybody. I don't care who you are. None of you are perfect. I'm not perfect. But we all have certain things that we're good about, that we do well. And if you set that mind frame to look for the good in everyone, it makes a difference on how you approach your workers and how you want to help them develop and grow. Praise their good performance and discuss their needs for improvement in their behavior or their actual performance of the job on a regular basis in small little bursts as it happens. Don't wait until you have 10 things and then blast them with it. That's not right either. Make sure you have the right time and place. Schedule a time in advance. You want privacy. You're not going to do this in front of everybody else. It needs to have confidentiality. This way, you're able to go through everything in a proper setting. It might include criticisms. There shouldn't be any real personal feelings, but maybe you really like the person. You want to help them grow, and you tell them, you know what, I really like you, and I want to see you do a better job. Maybe you need to provide some personal opinions. So when you're conducting the appraisal meeting, state the purpose of it to them, schedule it in advance, review and recognize all their achievements, the sandwich technique. Tell them all the good first before you get into the areas that need work. Get the employee to agree that they need to make that correction or improvement, or at least some kind of comprehension that they understand they need to improve. Use a problem-solving approach. Both of you jointly create an action plan to help improve that performance. Limit your criticism. Keep it to the facts, never make it personal, and clearly explain why these deficiencies need to be improved upon. Okay? Give the employee at the end an opportunity to ask any questions. Do you have any questions of me today? Is there anything that you don't understand? Make sure you have an understanding before they leave the room. Difficult responses by the superior be encountered during the appraisal meeting. Yes, you need to be prepared for this ahead of time. Answers like, well, you hired me, so how can I be bad? Or, you're just out to get me. Or, this evaluation is not fair. Why do they think it's not fair? Be prepared with answers. I didn't know that was an important thing. You never told me that. All these things that you see here are sincerely realistic responses that you're going to get. Some of them are going to accuse you of being prejudiced against their gender. We just don't like female workers. Or because I'm, let me think of another example. Because I'm a Buddhist. You don't like Buddhists, and I know that. I've heard you make fun of them. So you're against me because I'm a Buddhist. You know what I mean? Make sure that you're able to meet those answers head on. Don't get caught off guard or blindsided. When you get ready to finish the meeting, closing it is very important. So again, make sure the employee understands their performance ratings, what they did good, what they need to work on. Get them to agree on mutual goals where they need to improve. Set a date. Very important. Let's get together again in 3 months and let's go over and see how you've done on these new goals and where we need to go from there. Have the employee sign the performance appraisal form. That's very important. That at least admits or acknowledges that you two have talked. Doesn't mean they're signing it saying they agree with it. And they could even write, I am signing this appraisal form, but I don't agree with the content. Let them put in comments if they want and indicate that you're continuously trying to support their success. All right, so now, again, in your book, there are some good things in this book. I do like it. Questions to determine coaching strategies. Have you identified specific areas of performance that need improvement? Have you considered alternative courses of action? Are there barriers beyond the employee's control that influence their current performance? Does the employee know how to do the job? Do they know if when and how if they're doing a good job or not a good job? How will you reward and reinforce improvement? All these things are good questions to run through your mind when you're setting up the performance appraisal and how you're going to conduct the meeting. Now, sometimes appraisals are used for a good thing, and that's to get an employee promoted. There are benefits for promoting from within. Number one, provides a steady source of trained personnel for higher positions in the company. It gives you people with a track record already of known performance. They're already doing really well. Why not elevate them to another position to where they will do well too? And really important is employees see a reason to do a good job. They see a link between doing a good job and getting promoted. Modifying a promotion from within policy, you can do that when there are no suitable internal candidates available. Maybe you have to go from outside. Or if there's some really extensive training required and the position has to be filled quickly, so sometimes you have to hire from outside. Here's the big problem with a lot of managers. I want to cover this with you. Understand that you can encourage or inhibit your own promotion. If you control everything and don't let any of your people gain any ground, if you aren't training your replacement, someone to take over your job, it makes it real hard for the people above you to move you into the next higher position, because taking you out of that spot will leave a big gap. Most people don't understand that. I've been promoted 3 times by having people ready to take my job, as opposed to hearing, gosh, we'd really like to promote you, but there's nobody around right now that would fit into your slot without the department suffering, so we can't promote you. That's the worst thing you ever want to hear. Okay? Another reason for an appraisal is for compensating, obviously to give raises. Uh, it's also a good way to eliminate pay inequities to minimize, dissatisfaction and complaints about, well, I do the same job so and so does, and they get paid more than me. Well, yeah, but they have these extra skills, and they do better, and they produce more than you. So you need to be prepared for that, and that should show up in their appraisal as well. You also may want to establish or maintain sufficiently attractive pay rates so that the employees who are qualified are attracted to the company or remain with your company. Also, you should have a method in place to conduct periodic merit rewards or ratings so that you give them a performance increase. Certainly, you want to control labor costs with respect to your productivity, and a good way to gauge that also is through a performance review. And a performance review sometimes might be best for rewarding employees who give outstanding performance or gain new skills or knowledge. Employee incentives, well, there's several kinds out there. I've seen some of them work. I've seen some of them not work. Know of one company that paid people by piecework. The more product they put out, the more they got paid. Well, that's good as long as the increase in their production is good product that can be sold, or hence quality product. Yeah, sure, we could all produce a lot more product, but it may not be very good or may not be good enough to sell. So the system has to be such that the employee gets a certain amount more of pay for each piece produced, but it has to be a quality product. Paying for performance compensation other than their base wages that is given for achieving employee or corporate goals. Typically salespeople, if they hit a certain level of sales, they get an extra 2% commission. Gain sharing plans. Having a group incentive plan that employees share the benefits from improved performance. Kind of like what we used to call profit sharing in the good old days. The more the company made, the more the employees made. So if the company made great profit, each employee got 0.25% extra in their pay. Not a big deal maybe weekly, but over time it adds up. Skill-based pay. Paying people for what they know and do. Any new skills they acquire or can demonstrate. So now let's look at Chapter 12, Managing Work Groups. Successful work groups are those that are highly cohesive. They get along very well. They figure they have higher status than the other regular employee, and they work really well because they get things done. Usually a powerful group is small in number, somewhere to the area of 4 to 6 members. The members have similar personal characteristics, and they formed due to outside pressures or for self-protection. These members communicate very easily. They've succeeded in some group effort previously, and so because they've done so well there, they're encouraged to work as a group to gain new objectives. There's different types of groups, and we're going to cover them now. First one is command group. A command group is a group of employees that are rated as such according to the authority relationships on their formal organizational chart, like a management team. In one company, you have your general manager, your quality manager, finance manager, etc., etc. The managers of that company or that facility become the command group. Task group is something where employees come together to kind of accomplish a certain task. Typically a cross-functional team, meaning there's a member from each department in the company. The reason they come together is either to solve a problem or to create a new product or to work on a new program for the company. They have a particular purpose for being there. We also have what's called an informal group or a friendship group. It's a group of employees who kind of become a group based on their personalities and social interests. There's what's called a special interest group. It's a grouping of employees that exist to accomplish something in a group. Individuals pretty much don't pursue individually. Could be a labor union, it could be a protest committee, it could be a group coming together to convince management to do something. It all depends. The facts about groups are this. Groups affect and control the behaviors of individual members by a group enforcement of their norms. Okay? They establish these norms of this is how we will conduct ourselves. The individuals and groups are affected by the attention paid to them by their supervisors. If they're neglected, they tend to do things to get more attention. If they're recognized and appreciated, they tend to do things to try to improve things at work. Team members, though, have to be committed to the group and to the performance of the group. Whether they're personal or task or cross-functional, somebody assigned by the company, or a group that just gets together like a bowling team at work, they have to be committed to their performance. Team members need to be held accountable for their actions, and they are usually done so by the team, which gives them personal responsibility to make sure the team succeeds. New team leadership roles for supervisors now today are not just bossy, leading type people. They need to be more coaching and facilitating. Help these people be successful. Set the pace for them. Show them the goal. Communication is emphasized as team leaders become focused on their processes, and they use their meetings to clarify their team roles and pretty much inspire each other. Teamwork is basically designed to be people working together to solve problems or to attain goals important to the company. There are some different types of group effort. There is synergistic effect, the interaction of two or more individuals, so their combined efforts are greater than they were if they were individual. 2 heads are better than 1. 4 heads is twice as good. More creative thought. A collaborative workplace, a work environment characterized by joint decision-making, shared accountability and authority, and a high morale and trust level of mutual respect between employees and managers. And then the hardest one of all, ladies and gentlemen, is the virtual team. I've worked in a couple of those, and yes, they are tough. You can imagine being face-to-face and working day-to-day with people, how sometimes there are personality conflicts or problems. But now virtual means that you're not even in the same facility. You might be geographically separated throughout the country or throughout the world, and you're working together on a common goal or project by communication technologies, whether that be email, voicemail, teleconferencing, or television conferencing. So there are some barriers to working as a team, but the thing, again, we're going to concentrate is the positive, the keys to having effective work teams. And I seriously encourage you to look at all these steps listed in your book. These are all good keys on how to have a good working and effective work team. All right, now let's look at morale. Morale is a feeling and attitude that an individual or a group of people have about their work. Some people hate their job. Some places you can walk into and you can feel it in the air. Oh boy, this is not a happy place. And then there's other places you can go where everybody's in a great mood, they love their job, and you know it's a great place to work. So they're sharing their working condition, which means they have a great rapport with their management and supervisors and the organization. So it can be great or it could really be horrible. There's also what's called a workplace spirituality. Organizational efforts to make work environment more meaningful, more creative by relating the work to employees' personal values and spiritual beliefs. The downside of today's trend in trying to keep morale up is look at all the downsizing and outsourcing that's going on. Jobs are leaving the country, going somewhere else. Companies are downsizing and giving other people more work than they used to do. How do you get people to feel great and happy about their job? Downsizing and outsizing forces employees to sever their friendships and leaving those behind, kind of like the movie Left Behind, with a survivor syndrome. As such, because of these things, because of downsizing, outsourcing, somebody retires and they don't replace them, there's now a trend of incivility on the rise in the business, partly because of time and productivity pressure from management to try to squeeze everything they can out of every employee they got, or out of the survivors. The survivors have to do more now. So there's a lot of things that affect the employee. They may have their own personal problems, personal life issues. Some may have a substance abuse problem. Some may have family marital problems. Some may be alcoholics. A lot of things are weighing on them. So you're supposed to motivate them and make them happy about their job and want to do more. How do you do that? Well, there's a lot of external and internal factors that influence morale. Family relationships, maybe they have elderly parents who are sick and close to death that they have to care for. Maybe they have great financial problems. Maybe they're not getting along with their best friends, or maybe a guy and a girl are on the verge of breaking up. Maybe their car is breaking down and they're having a hard time keeping it going. Could be sickness or death in the family. Don't compound that by giving them problems at the job too. Some of the internal factors you could do to help outweigh that is compensate them for the work they do. Ensure them that they have a job there as long as they come every day and do a good job. Improve the nature of the work they do. Give them authority and challenges. Try to improve the relationship between coworkers in the facility. Make the working conditions better overall. And for goodness sakes, make them feel like there's a reason why they're at work. Give them recognition for what they do. Assessing the morale is tough. The thing that you can look at to decide whether they have a good morale or a bad morale is, number one, their performance level. If they're doing a great job, they've got good morale. If they're not, they don't care. You need to try to figure out how to stimulate that. If they're late a lot, that doesn't show a sign of good morale, does it? If they start wasting or scrapping more and just have a I don't care, who cares, it's the company's money, that's not good. If there are more employee complaints, if this person has more accident or safety problems, or if there's a major change in their day-to-day way that they work with people. If they were happy-go-lucky and all of a sudden they don't care and they're grouchy and argumentative, then it's time to find out why. Something is going wrong. Don't wait until they're a loss. Step in, try to change that, and improve or coach it to a better level. One thing that does happen in a lot of companies that they don't do well is the exit interview. Whenever somebody leaves a company, whether they left on their own or whether you've terminated them, you should have an exit interview with them to find out why. What happened? What killed their morale? What was the reason for them leaving the company? There is a reason for the employee turnover. If you see a lot of people leaving your department or your company, there's a reason for it. If you don't start finding out why, you're going to lose more good people. Do what's called an attitude survey. Survey of employee opinions about major aspects of their organizational life and the job that's used to assess their morale. Don't wait till they're gone. Do an attitude survey early on. What do you find bad about this job? What do you like least about it? What do you like most about it? Doesn't hurt to ask those things and get a feel for how things are going. One of the biggest things that are used today, particularly since business is on a never-ending change trend, is what's called organizational development. And this is meeting with groups under the guidance of a neutral conference leader to try to solve problems that's keeping organizational effectiveness from being pristine, or when we're trying to bring about change, we'll lead an organizational development team involving employees to figure out what's the best way to make this change happen. Counseling should always be done. It's an effort by the supervisor to deal with those on-the-job performance problems that result. Get them while they first happen. Don't wait till they build up. Don't wait till you have a long list. And by the time the employee gets through hearing from you, they're glad to be gone. Do a counseling interview. It's a non-directive interview where the supervisor will listen to the employee and encourage the employee to discuss problems openly and try to come up with solutions so that everybody's happy. The more positive and aggressive you are about doing this, the more you will head off problems in your facility. In your book, again, are the steps for the counseling process. And again, I recommend you take this to heart. I've been in management for a long time, folks, and I'm going to tell you the key to your success is the key to how well your people do. And how well your people do is all based on how well you motivate them and how well you treat them. If they respect you, they'll do a great job for you. If they don't like you, you'll get just enough to get by. And that doesn't move you up the ladder either. All right, so you're going to have people with personal and work-related problems. There's been a couple things developed in the last few years. One of them is the FMLA Act of 1993. It guarantees that people who have maybe, let's say, a child with cancer, a guarantee that they have a job, but they can take time off without fear of loss of that job to attend to their sick child. Or maybe an employee has a parent that is slowly dying and they need to take a month off to spend that time with the parent and get things in order. So these kind of acts are put into place to protect employees, and you need to respect that. But besides that, it's a law now. The employee does have to fill out the paperwork for that to advise the company of the situation. There's also the Employee Assistance Program. Usually, these are company programs to help employees with personal or work-related problems that keep them from doing a good job, maybe like an alcohol problem, substance abuse. Maybe they're having marriage, child care, family problems. Maybe they need some financial help or questions on how to fix their debt problems. Or it could be just any personal, emotional, or psychological problem that's interfering with their day-to-day life and hence their job performance. All right, so your homework for this week, week 2. Number 1, look at the weekly assignment folder. The instructions are there for you. Again, you have a weekly quiz over the material covered here. You do have a weekly homework or team project every week. And every week we have a discussion board topic. This is where we assess your attendance, but at the same time, it's a great place to share your thoughts with your other students in this class. And it's a good place to learn as well as share knowledge that you might have. So that ends it for this week. Homework is going to be due every week without fail. You'll always know that your homework is due by Saturday evening at 11:30. So no matter what assignment you got, every week your homework is due by Saturday, okay? I figure a consistent day is best, so please plan ahead. Don't wait till the last night to do it. Have a great week. I'm going to wrap it up now. And if you've got any questions, give me a holler. We'll talk later.